The shadowy world of unsanctioned horse racing in Colorado, exposed for the first time on hidden camera.
When these horses are charging 35 miles an hour down a racetrack and they're doped up, bad things can happen.
An exclusive Fox 31 Problem Solvers investigation puts you in the ugly middle of this big money sport.
No comment for him.
What? No,
I said no
come on, you're the mayor of this town.
I am.
And exposes political connections that allow these illicit events to flourish.
Yeah, here's the thing. Arapahoe Park is the only authorized horse racing track in this entire state, but that has not stopped a number of other races from happening every year.
We do want to give you a warning for some of the content you're about to see may be disturbing to younger viewers. Here's Fox 31's Chris Halsne with a special Problem Solvers investigation.
A Fox 31 Problem Solvers investigation asks how gambling, drugs, and flagrant abuse of racehorses can occur right here in the middle of a Colorado town, while racing regulators, politicians, and law enforcement turn a blind eye. This unsanctioned horse race looks legitimate. Jockeys wearing colorful silk numbers fly out of the starting gates on these muscular quarter horses trucked in from places like Texas and New Mexico. A large crowd gathers close to the rails, cheering wildly as the competitors storm past toward the finish. On the surface, it's a festive atmosphere. However, based on what undercover teams working with the Fox 31 Problem Solvers captured on camera, these for-profit match races have a sinister side. It's Easter Sunday outside the Deer Trail Rodeo grounds. Armed teams of private security in flak jackets set up a roadblock, searching passengers and vehicles as they enter. We see an Arapahoe sheriff's deputy drive by slowly outside the stadium, but he doesn't stop. Inside, the excitement builds as the gates open and horses start charging down the dirt straightaway. The races themselves, 10 on this day, don't appear to have many rules. Whipping of animals is harsh and at times seemed excessive. This jockey rams his horse into a competitor, pushing the thundering beasts towards spectators, including children. In another race, a jockey tumbles to the ground while his frantic horse sprints freely around the arena. There is a lot of cash flying around as well. Everyone seems to want to lay a bet on their favorite horse.
¿Cuánto? 50. 50. Unos 40 si quieres. ¿Le va a ese? Sí, hombre, va conmigo. Ahí van 40. Si gana el mío. No, pues si gana usted, gana los 40.
Men, insiders call gamble brokers, visibly carry large wads of money, both accepting and paying out bets right in the open. Hundreds of racing fans in the stands, dozens of horse trailers parked near barns, armed security milling around, and there is not a state veterinarian or racing regulator in sight.
They got a lot of money invested in this.
Ron Camerzel is in charge of horse racing enforcement for the Department of Revenue.
The racetrack, as well as all the casinos that we regulate, are subject to IRS requirements, currency transaction reporting, and the concerns there is with money laundering and things of that nature, illegal activities that are incident to gambling itself.
Camerzel's division oversees the only licensed legal horse racing venue in Colorado, Arapahoe Park in Aurora. His agents do drug testing of horses and jockeys and make certain the races aren't rigged. None of those enforcement tools are used at unpermitted races like the one in Deer Trail. And until lawmakers give the Racing Commission some teeth, the statutory authority to put a stop to it, Camerzel's hands are tied.
I think the public would say, even in these unsanctioned races, that it should be your job to protect those horses too.
Our authority kind of ends with the licensed industry. And then local law enforcement, state and local law enforcement kind of takes over when it goes into the arena of potential illegal activity.
Like the alleged doping of racehorses, something captured on this hidden camera footage from the Deer Trail event. What you're seeing is a horse just moments from entering the starting gates being held by a group of men who jab a large needle into the animal's neck. The syringe, marked for veterinary use only, contained an unknown brown liquid substance our informant described as typically a cocktail of stimulants to ramp up the horse's heart and get it to run faster. Gambling, alleged doping, and mistreatment of horses may have been obscured from the public inside the rodeo grounds, but it seemed impossible to us that such a large event, widely advertised online by Pajeris Racing Partners, could go unnoticed by Deer Trail politicians. It turns out they more than knew.
Let's call this meeting to order for the Deer Trail Town Board of Trustees.
This is Deer Trail Mayor Kent Vassos. According to state records, Vassos is the registered agent of something called the Deer Trail Jockey Club. That jockey club is one of the oldest nonprofits in Colorado and owner of the rodeo grounds where the unsanctioned Easter races were held. Vassos admitted to the Fox 31 Problem Solvers as a member of the jockey club, he had allowed Pajeris Racing to use the rodeo grounds for match races over the past number of years. We approached Vassos following a Board of Trustees meeting to get an explanation.
No comment for him.
What? No,
I said no
come
comment.
on, you're the mayor of this town.
I am, and it was an event held on private property, so it's not a town issue.
You're also the president of the jockey club.
I'm not the president of the jockey club.
You're the
no,
registered
sorry.
agent? It looks like the paperwork, you're the registered agent. So you have something to do with this. I do. Both as a mayor and as a private citizen, correct?
Yeah, and you'll ask anybody that really knows about it, and I tried harder than anybody to put them to stop.
So, are you going to put a stop to it? Can you?
They're already done. I told you that on the phone. There's not going to be another race held in Deer Trail, Colorado.
And why'd you make that decision?
Because of the stuff you brought to our attention.
During the town's public comment session, I informed the Board of Trustees of our findings.
I'm here representing some citizens in this town who've had some serious concerns about unsanctioned horse races.
But none wanted to comment, including Judd Behrens.
What do you know about it, if anything?
I got no comment on it. No.
From a town's image standpoint, is it good to have some of the illegal activities that we clearly saw there going on in the middle of your little town?
No. But like I said, no comment. I don't feel like being on the news.
The question now is, if Deer Trail won't allow these unsanctioned horse races on its track any longer, what's to stop the operation from moving to the next town? Following the Deer Trail event, I found this needle lying near the starting gates. The Fox 31 Problem Solvers sent it for testing to a lab which specializes in catching doped-up racehorses. We'll have the results coming up at 10.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff. I saw a preview of that. You mentioned the law enforcement aspect of this. We saw the sheriff's deputy's car just sort of drive by. What are they doing? What are they saying about this?
Arapahoe County says unless they're called for illegal activity, they don't go into private events.
It's a Problem Solvers investigation you'll see only on Fox. Last hour, hidden cameras showed you the dangers of unsanctioned horse racing, an industry that's flourishing in rural Colorado.
Now, investigative reporter Chris Halsne joins us to expose how the welfare of the horses are being put at risk for the sake of winning.
This needle says for veterinary use only. I picked it up a few yards from the starting gates of an illicit horse race last month. We tested the liquid inside, and it's safe to say the substances combined in here have no business being anywhere near a racetrack. Organizers of this Easter Sunday horse racing event at the Deer Trail Rodeo Grounds didn't have permission from state regulators, and even if they had asked, they never would have received it. Jockeys fell to the ground, gamble brokers took cash bets, and because this was an unsanctioned race, state regulators tell the Fox 31 Problem Solvers the normal process of pre- and post-race testing of horses for drugs never occurred. This video, according to 3 eyewitnesses, shows a horse taking a needle in the jugular area a few moments before its start.
Would there be any reason in any kind of race to inject a horse in the neck a few minutes before they get into the starting gate?
No, there is no reason for that. No legitimate reason.
Bruce Connolly is a well-known equine veterinarian. He has been on pari-mutuel boards and personally attended to a number of horses injured after unsanctioned races. The Fox 31 problem solvers showed him hidden camera video taken inside the deer trail match races. He was appalled.
That's what bothers me the most, is that we don't have regulations, so the horse becomes disposable.
The doping of horses, even in closely monitored events, still happens, but Conley says without any veterinarian oversight, the use of various performance-enhancing drug cocktails is well known.
I always have the concerns of what they're putting into these horses. And I've seen match race horses run blind, break themselves up because of stuff that was put in them that shouldn't have been.
The Fox 31 problem solvers found this needle in the grass not far from the deer trail starting gates after the races and sent it in for testing. The liquid inside had 3 substances. One remains completely unknown. The lab could not verify it in any mass spectral database. The other 2 were a combination of the stimulant caffeine and an equine anti-inflammatory painkiller called flunixin. Both are banned from pre-competition.
You've seen people on drugs. Their mind isn't right. They do things they wouldn't do when they weren't on the drugs. Same thing happens to horses. They do things they wouldn't do when they weren't on the drugs. And that may very well be detrimental to their health, to their life.
According to posted flyers, the deer trail event was put on by Pajeras Racing. I called that company. They declined to comment.
Where's law enforcement when this is going on?
Well, it's interesting. At first they told me, hey, they just drive by. They only go in if they get called. It's a private event. But we just received documents which show off-duty Arapahoe County deputies earned money working at these deer trail events over the years. We're vetting that story. We're putting it together. It'll be on next Monday night.
First, the Fox 31 problem solvers exposed unregulated match races, doping, gambling, and abuse of horses going unchecked by regulators and politicians. Now, we discover Arapahoe County Sheriff's deputies not only knew about horse races.
Are you looking the other way?
Absolutely not.
But profited from them.
An exclusive Problem Solvers investigation tonight. Organizers of unregulated horse races in Deer Trail have been hiring Arapahoe County deputies to provide extra patrols since at least 2015.
And tonight, Fox 31 investigative reporter Chris Halsne asked why those deputies didn't or couldn't stop the illegal activities.
Colorado statute has 1,400 pages of rules and regulations on horse racing. Some have to do with protecting the safety of the betting public or the jockeys, but others focus on the safety and welfare of these equine athletes. When it comes to unsanctioned match racing, there's only one rule: whatever makes the most money. On Easter Sunday, hidden cameras throughout the Deer Trail rodeo grounds recorded unsanctioned race after unsanctioned race. Video captured doping of a horse, gamble brokers taking bets, and jockeys falling to the ground. Fox 31 already proved this well-attended, unlicensed series of match races thrived under the political cover of Deer Trail's Mayor Kent Vassos, whom we also discovered is a convicted felon with a violent criminal history.
You have something to do with this.
I do.
Both as a mayor and as a private citizen, correct?
Yeah, and you'll ask anybody that really knows about it, and I tried harder than anybody to put them to stop.
Stopping them or protecting them. At this particular match race, armed private security worked outside as crowd and traffic control. However, on numerous other occasions, records show Arapahoe County deputies did that. These extra duty pay approvals show the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office provided deputies for what they called Deer Trail Mexican horse races. In 2015 and 16, the pay sheets show 30 deputies worked outside the horse races on at least 14 occasions. They wore Arapahoe County Sheriff uniforms and drove marked cars, earning more than $23,000. The requester, Kent Vassos, wasn't paying them as mayor, rather as a member of the owners of the rodeo grounds, the Jockey Club.
Are you looking the other way?
Absolutely not.
Arapahoe Sheriff's Office Commander Glenn Thompson sat down with the Fox 31 problem solvers to explain the complexities of trying to balance 2 objectives: keeping the community outside the rodeo grounds safe during large crowd situations like these, and being in a position to respond to a serious felony-level crime.
The deputies that work the area what they can see from outside the venue is clearly a lot different from what somebody inside the venue with a camera can see.
Commander Thompson said the sheriff's office was contracted by race organizers to stay outside for traffic and town patrol, and that's what deputies did. He says even after seeing the Fox 31 investigative reports on all the questionable activities inside, Arapahoe County would consider taking extra duty pay outside unsanctioned horse races in the future.
All the extra duty requests would be evaluated to see what the request is and what the specific location of that request is, and they'd be evaluated like any other request.
But law enforcement works differently in Yuma County.
I'm Chad Day. I'm the sheriff here in Yuma County.
Last July, a huge match race was advertised by Pajeras Racing, the same group who organized the deer trail events already exposed by Fox 31 problem solvers. This recording shows thousands of spectators in danger actually cheering from the track as a pair of horses come flying down the straightaway at the Yuma County Fairgrounds. Sheriff Day told himself right there that was going to be the last unpermitted horse race in his county ever.
I think it would be fair to say that it got out of hand.
Day understood most of the people who wanted to watch illicit races like this were just there for fun, but intermingled was a criminal element.
Trade of illegal narcotics, some weapons, some human trafficking, some underage prostitution. I mean, we've heard about all of these things.
So Day called in help. The next pop-up horse race held on these fairgrounds, he showed up with 50 deputies, a dozen canine units, and the FBI.
There were also some people that very obviously were uncomfortable with that presence, and they just left.
But Day took another, more permanent step. He got Yuma County commissioners to pass this new restrictive fairgrounds use policy. It requires any future match races to have a $10,000 minimum law enforcement and animal welfare deposit. A veterinarian is required to be on site for all horse races, and all expenses for law enforcement will be billed to the event holder. Since these rules have been in place, Day says nobody has even tried to run match races. As it stands, Colorado laws don't give state racing enforcement agents the right to stop these match races from happening. And our investigation clearly found flaws in the way local governments and police attempt to regulate the events. However, our investigative reporting did get the attention of Governor John Hickenlooper, who has already publicly said he's going to look into the matter. Chris Halsne, Fox 31.
Following a Fox 31 investigation into the dangers of unsanctioned horse racing, Colorado's governor weighs in.
When financial self-interest is involved, sometimes people will, dope up horses or, do things that are really unacceptable to almost everyone.
Is there a legislative fix, or should match racing remain a no-holds-barred underground sport?
That's the question all last month. The Problem Solvers investigation dug into ethical, moral, and legal questions surrounding the fast-growing industry of off-the-grid horse racing.
Our reports grabbed the attention of Governor John Hickenlooper, who sat down with Fox 31 investigative reporter Chris Halsne to share some ideas about fixes. Chris?
Well, the governor cannot craft laws, but made it clear during our interview he would support proposed legislation aimed at cleaning up the criminal elements connected to unsanctioned horse racing. The days where two ranchers saddled up their best horses and raced them across a field for bragging rights are long past. Unsanctioned horse races are now big business. They draw thousands of spectators, tens of thousands of dollars in alleged prize money, and plenty of illegal gambling on the side. A Fox 31 Problem Solvers investigation even found evidence some horse races are doped up with painkillers and caffeine as they hit the starting gate.
I commend you guys for doing the stories and really opening this up so that the public could be aware of it. I was unaware of it.
After seeing our reports, Governor John Hickenlooper says it might be time to reevaluate the state's hands-off approach to match racing.
Yeah, you want to get all those people together and say, how can we make sure that these horses are not mistreated for the lowest amount of cost and intrusion into people's lives? We want to make the the regulatory part of it as minimum as possible and yet still guarantee the welfare of the horses.
Colorado already has a state racing commission and sends doping and gambling enforcement agents to oversee certified licensed races at Arapahoe Park, but nowhere else. Chief of Racing Enforcement Ron Hammerzell tells the Fox 31 Problem Solvers he hears complaints about unsanctioned horse racing occurring at places like the rodeo grounds in Deer Trail, but he can't do anything about it.
Simply our statutory authority doesn't really allow us to get involved there. But again, when local law enforcement calls, we never say no. We give them, we share our expertise and assist them in any way we can.
Governor Hickenlooper thinks with the help of animal rights organizations, current racing regulators can and should start thinking about crafting some simple safety rules that bring horse match races out of the shadows.
How do we get to a compromise where everyone is satisfied and that we can guarantee that horses aren't being mistreated, that the spectators and the racers are safe? At the end of every day, everything's going to be okay.
The Deer Trail Board of Trustees says it will no longer allow match races at its rodeo grounds because of our reporting. But we don't know where the organizers of those races might go next. For years, Pajeras Racing USA heavily advertised match racing events on its Facebook page. But that page, since our reporting started, has gone dark. Chris Halsne, Fox 31.